last employment opportunity in the state of Doha, Qatar, where I was having reporting relationship to Her Excellency the Queen of Qatar herself, and involved in strategic decision making, business planning activities, and corporate leadership, which involved many billions of dollars worth of business that is helping transform the country Qatar into moving away from a hydrogen related environment, which is more petroleum based and carbon based, into a knowledge based economy, and leading the transformation and putting in place all the infrastructure that is needed, the different colleges, the research infrastructure, and the educational fields, the corporate and community development activities. You name it, there is about 80 different corporate organizations that were reporting to a foundation that actually was the place where I was working in the end. So that's been a long journey. And during the entire career span, I've spoken and interacted with both clients of ours as well as direct staff and employees. Over maybe I'm talking about maybe over hundreds and 150, 200 odd companies that I have conducted activities for. That could be training activities as well as consultancy activities, and all over the world. I mean, in different parts of the world, a few in India, but predominantly overseas. And I bring with me a wealth of experience in different areas, and also a lot of expertise related to the different jobs and the different levels of jobs and responsibilities and requirements that comes with every position. So what I'm trying to do now is to bring all that international expertise to India or to any other parts of the world that I actually engage in, and conduct programs for both the corporate programs as well as other programs that I'll be talking to you about in a few minutes from now. So on screen, actually, you're seeing a few of my training programs, which I've conducted in many of the organizations that I've been engaged with. And there's an intensive consulting background and expertise also across various domains. So I know that many of you who are attending this session today over here may be from diverse background, different environments, different domains, different sectors, different verticals. You name it. You want to dice it and slice it in any way. So you may be coming from a very vast, diverse range. I have seen the profile of the attendees who have registered for today's program, and I know that we have people right from starting entry-level executives all the way up to managing directors of companies who are actually attending this seminar with us over here at present. So I'm talking about a wide range of audience even for this webinar. So that's the kind of audience and the kind of expertise that I've also been exposed to in my career spanning over 25 odd years. So I worked with non-profit organizations, educational training organizations, colleges, universities, you name it. And then also done a lot of work with science and research organizations, community development, construction engineering, fabrication, installation, even companies that dealt with dairy and cattle feed. You know, I'm talking about large, very multi-million projects that are involved in those areas. I've engaged intensively with manufacturing sectors, petroleum and petrochemical sectors, also with operation and maintenance of plants in various parts of the world, service companies, trading companies, information and technology, IT and ITES companies. So you name it. You know, that's a lot of diverse experience in different environments and different domains that I am able to bring to any of the attendees of any programs that I conduct anywhere around the world. But more than all that experience and expertise, I think what has transformed me as a person and influenced me the most is being personally trained by some of the world's leading gurus, some of the awesome gurus, as I would call them. If you see on the screen at present, you have Dr. Stephen Covey, who many of you must be familiar with the 7 habits that he introduced, and a lot of wonderful things, life-transforming activities that he and his organization have carried out, not just in corporate world, but in the world in general. And I had the unique opportunity to be personally trained by this amazing human being. And then Dr. Ken Blanchard. I mean, I have not organized them in any particular order of priority in whatsoever manner. It's just that I've got them all on one single slide for you, so you get a fair idea about what kind of an experience and an exposure am I bringing to each one of you attending this webinar, and then the training programs and what are all what we're going to talk about today and in the future. So I've had a beautiful opportunity to interact and train under Dr. Ken Blanchard. You may recognize him, many of you, as a great person, human being. He's done a lot of work, especially a book that many of you may have come across is The 1 Minute Manager. If you haven't read it, I would pick one of those books off the shelves online, or if it's in hard copy, and read it. A 1 Minute Manager is an amazing transformational experience for anybody. It doesn't matter if you are an entry-level position in an organization, in a corporate world, or the CEO of a multi-billion industry. So it's a transformational book that can actually have a profound influence on anybody who reads that book. So Dr. Ken Blanchard is one of my gurus. And then, of course, a lot of companies around the world are very familiar with the balanced scorecard framework for corporate performance management and performance management in general. So Dr. Kaplan and Dr. Norton, Dr. David Kaplan and Dr. Norton are the co-inventors of the balanced scorecard framework. So I had the unique opportunity to train under them on the balanced scorecard framework as well, which I've implemented across many organizations that I worked with, and helped, still continue to help organizations and companies implement the balanced scorecard framework. Now I'm actually working on a book, and I have the permission and the blessing from Dr. Kaplan himself to write a book on how you can adapt the balanced scorecard framework to your own life. So that's a project that I will so shortly be commencing, and he has promised, actually, so kind of him, to actually write the foreword for that book. So if I get the opportunity and time to start working on it, I will be commencing on that program also very shortly. And then I had the chance to be trained with Dr. Eduardo Di Bono. He is the creator of the 6 Thinking Hats. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but if not, I would strongly suggest you Google it up, the 6 Thinking Hats. You know, something that you could do during this webinar is take a few notes, okay? Because even when this presentation is eventually available online and recorded, you will find that most of my slides do not have too much content in it, okay? Because I do not want much of my attendees to be reading a lot, but I want you to travel this journey together with me. So there will be a lot of images, except when, of course, I get into the 8 modules. There will be still a lot of reading material for you there. But until then, it's all talking around concepts and images. So if you want to take a few notes, feel free to take those notes. And I hope that my audio is clear to you. So we have Dr. Eduardo Di Bono, the creator of the 6 Thinking Hats. And that's about, we all go through this transformation of wearing a particular hat at a particular time. I myself I'm very familiar to be invited to corporate meetings to sit over there with what I call the black hat. The black hat is when you wear something on your mindset. It's a mindset. You assume that you're wearing a black hat and you're looking only for negatives. Okay, so there's a meeting going on, a corporate meeting. A lot of people are sharing ideas. A lot of people are discussing concepts. And then you are a person invited to that meeting to wear a black hat and sit over there and think about all the negatives that they're talking about and identify the pitfalls and the weaknesses so that you can actually flag it to them and they can do something about it. So there are different hats that you're talking about. So I won't go into that at present, but I will be touching a lot of these concepts and management principles when you actually join with me for the more detailed program eventually. So we will be talking about all that a lot more, and you will take away a lot of material. A lot of my 25 years of experience will be shared to every attendee, irrespective of whether you're an entry-level person or right at the top of the pyramid at present in your organization. And I will be showing you how you're going to move from that lower entry-level position all the way as high as you can get, because only your mindset is stopping you from moving up. And that's the approach that I will be taking during the program as well. And then right at the bottom, you will find more recently two gurus who I've interacted with. I haven't had the chance to personally train under them, but I've worked with people who were personally trained by them, so I can call myself a second in line trainee to most of them. And I'm one of the, they're both co-founders of what you might all be familiar with, known as the neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So they're the co-founders, Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder, both of them co-founders of the NLP, and both of them have actually developed their own code for the neuro-linguistic programming. So one is the classic code and one is the new code NLP. And I had the very unique opportunity to be trained. And I can proudly say I'm probably one of the very few in India who have been trained on both these codes. So I do adapt a lot of the neuro-linguistic programming in a subtle manner. And in fact, none of the management principles that I have learned and I have and internalized, I never deliver it to somebody calling it a management principle, but I build it into the programs and into the modules so that it goes into their subconscious mind and it is internalized so that you can actually implement it as and when you start going out into your work and implementing everything that we talk about. So that's enough for about to talk about the different people that I've been trained on. And but what happened is, as I've transformed, I've gone through the journey of this 25 years. In the last few years, which is close to the 24th, 25th, 26th year of my corporate career, I have had a self-reflection. I reflected on what I've been doing all these years and how life has transformed and how I've moved up the corporate ladder and all the beautiful, amazing experience that I carry with me, and realized that sooner or later, all this experience will disappear into the earth when I'm gone. So it became a priority for me to actually contact people, move around, and start delivering all my learnings and my knowledge to people around the world and to audiences both in India and overseas through corporate programs, through schools, to colleges, to companies, to public workshops, to public programs, training modules, workshop modules, you name it, to touch as many people's lives as possible before the candle is blown out on me. So this is what I'm trying to do at present, and that's the reason why I contacted SkillSir, who I have a personal connection with for many, many years, and I know their beautiful journey of the 24 years that you've been introduced to at present, and I connect with them a lot in terms of the impact that they're also trying to have, and that's exactly what I am also interested in. I'm here to transform lives. I'm here to transform lives of people who are at the entry level in corporate career or all the way up to CEOs. I do a lot of counseling. I do a lot of coaching activities. I do a one-on-one sessions with a lot of people who have personal problems, corporate problems, issues that we can talk on the table, issues that we can't talk on the table, and then we work together to identify transformational changes that have made sure that people can break away from any of the challenges that they are facing and go on to achieve their full potential. And that's exactly what the whole my concept and my focus at present is. At the bottom of the slide, you will find that I've actually been featured on a lot of newspapers, TV channels, including Al Jazeera, which is very famous for all the reasons, the right and the wrong reasons, and also a lot of newspapers. And I've also gained, thankfully, thanks to God and thanks to all mercies that I've been bestowed with by the Almighty, I've also been featured in as 3 entries in the Limca Book of Records for different programs that I was involved in, especially with regards to books that I have written and co-authored. So I've written a lot of books also. Based on the management experience that I have shared. You can find information about a lot of this on my website as well. And also I co-authored a few books. I did a lot of programs that involved authors from around the world and also gained access to the Limca Book of Records 3 entries over there. But none of this is important for me, as important as somebody coming across to me one day or giving me a call or sending me a chat message and telling me, Dr. Rajiv or sir or uncle or brother or sir, whatever you want to call me, to say that because of that interaction I've had with you, something clicked in my mind and I was able to go and break away from the shackles which were holding me back and put me on the right path of achieving total satisfaction in what I wanted to do, and was able to break through my limitations and to reach that goal that I wanted to achieve. And believe me, I have hundreds and hundreds of them communicating with me about something like that. And that's what makes me happy. And that's what I want to do together with SkillSir. And this is something that I will also talk to you a little later about when we talk about how this module will be evolving. Okay, so that's enough introduction about me, and I think we should get into the modules and talk about the 8 tools. Okay, so what we are developing now is something called the Managers Toolbox. And in the Managers Toolbox, I'm going to talk about, there could be hundreds of tools that any manager can use. Okay, and when I say manager, I'm not talking about a job title. I'm talking about a person who has a managerial responsibility, a supervisory responsibility, plays a leadership role. You could be a lead, you could be a supervisor, you could be a head, you could be a manager, you could be a CEO, you name it. You know, it differs from industry to industry, sector to sector, and structure to structure. But this leadership role, the managerial roles, do not stop at the corporate structures or the companies that you work in or your own personal businesses that you're operating in. This leadership role, this managerial role, and everything, the 8 tools that we're going to talk about in these 8 modules will also apply to your lives. Okay, and that's my key takeaway from the experience that I have, and that's the key takeaway that most of my attendees of programs actually come back and tell me about. So what we've talked about over there doesn't apply just to my work, but it applies to my life also. And you can see some of it when we talk about the 8 tools that we're going to see in the Manager's Toolbox. Okay, so before I get into that, this is an area that I would have loved to have an interaction with you. And I was warned that, you know, in many of our attendees might be tuning in from low bandwidth connections, and it's possible that when a lot of people try to speak at the same time, it could affect the audio clarity, it could affect the video clarity. So I wouldn't ask you to switch on your videos, but it would be great if you could, at least some of you could unmute yourself and tell me, in your jobs as managers, or in your role as a leader, or as a lead, or as a supervisor, what are some of the main challenges that you face? What are the stumbling blocks that you come across? And if you're not able to do that on your mics, it might be a good idea to use the chat option. And then when you have some of these chats coming up, I would request somebody from the SkillSir team to call them out to me so that I can internalize it and build the rest of the communication when we go into the 8 tools around those for you. So you don't walk away from here just spending the last about half an hour to 45 minutes listening to what we want to say, but you walk away with taking something with you. I want to have an impact of this half an hour or 45 minutes that I will be interacting with you on. So if any of you would like to unmute yourself and give me some of the challenges that you might face, or if you want to type it into your chat box, this is your time. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm assuming that some of you are typing. Can I request the SkillSir team to have a look at the chat box and read out some to me if there is anything coming in there? If not, I can proceed to the actual modules.
Yes, we are awaiting the responses from the participants.
Okay, if you do not have anything to add, I would request the participants at least to say none. So we know that you don't have anything, so I can move on. But if you do have something, I would really, really love for you to put it in and communicate it so that it becomes a meaningful exercise for you and for me. We'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to add something. If not, I will go on to the 8 tools in the Manager's Toolbox. I'm assuming that nobody is typing anything. So occasionally we encounter this, a stumbling block when it comes to responding. And also what happens is it is one of the challenges that we face as managers also, the ability to communicate. So I will be touching about that in a little while from now when I go to that slide related to communication. But there is nothing called a correct answer. There's nothing called a wrong answer. So I would strongly encourage you to make this interactive if you want to communicate something either in audio or in chat. Right. So what I have experienced, I'm assuming that nothing has come in because I didn't hear anything from the SkillSir team also. So what I would like to do is then proceed with some of the stumbling blocks that I have perceived. Now, I may be completely right and we may align entirely on this, but some of you may think differently on this also, which is fine. This is also excellent because, if everybody thinks alike, it doesn't add value to any team. So we need to have a diversity in the way that we think and we perceive things also. So some of the challenges that I have seen, because I was tasked at most of my jobs with training of people who are being mentored and nurtured into leadership positions. So as and when we encounter that, we come across some challenges like, they may not have they may not have the right skill set. It could be one of the challenges. Now, what happens is in many of our educational environment over here, most of our colleges over here, people go through a sequence of many years of academic content without really transforming or transferring to the attendees and to the students the sufficient skill sets that are equipping them to join certain jobs and to excel at it. So what happens is we do not provide them the right skill set to be able to be meaningfully employed and to become successful at the employment. I know that we have a few HR managers in this group over here, and I know that we also have a few CEOs and a few managing directors over here, and I'm sure you are in sync with me on this, that when you get new employees coming over to you, sometimes they're not ready for employment. And sometimes we have to just start and invest a lot in training them and preparing them to adequately face the real job situations. Another challenge that people tend to face is the lack of the mindset. Because when we are in college, we are in a protected environment. When we are in certain jobs, we are in a different environment. And when we move into leadership positions or when we move into managerial or other positions, we go there without the right mindset. So we lack the skill set and then we lack the mindset also because we go with certain preconceptions. We go with certain preconceptions and assumptions that will actually make us very unhappy in those jobs. So one of the challenges over there could be a lack of mindset, and then it could also be lack of self-knowledge. I do not know what my strengths and my weaknesses are and how I can adapt some of these strengths and weaknesses and how I can work around this to be most efficient and most successful in the job that I'm actually doing. So this could be a lack of self-knowledge. And then comes a big challenge, which is the lack of domain knowledge. Sometimes you're given people or you have to hire people or you put people in certain jobs, even though they may not be the right person for that job. They may not have a knowledge or a domain background about the industry that they are in or the kind of role that they're trying to play. So they come with a lot of domain knowledge. And then another challenge that a lot of managers face, and I've seen this happening across many people who communicate with me about the challenges that they have, is that you are in a job where you're working from maybe 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. and most of you beyond 5 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., maybe late into the night, 10 p.m., and even on weekends, and everybody's working so hard and intensively, but still you tend to be caught in a silo. You tend to be caught in an area without really seeing what's happening around you. What is the larger picture? How does my job and how does my role contribute to the rest of the organization? How does it contribute to everything else that is happening in the organization? And if I do well, how is it going to benefit the company or the organization or the team? And if I did not do well, how does it affect the others? So that's the larger picture that a lot of us are not completely aware of. So these are some of the stumbling blocks. There may be more. What I would request of you is, if you haven't been able to provide any stumbling blocks or challenges yet, even after this program, when you communicate with SkillSir, or if you are communicating directly with me on any of my social media channels that have been shared and which I will put also in the last slide, feel free to let me know what some of these stumbling blocks and challenges that you face are. The reason I am asking you is that as I concrete the modules of the 8 modules of the Managers Toolbox, I can make sure it is custom built to address your requirements and to address your challenges. So it will be a very important step, and the feedback that I receive from you will help me to get there. So what we are going to have over here in the 8 tools that I have in the Managers Toolbox for you are 8 different modules, which are listed here. I will go very briefly into each one of them in the subsequent following slides. So there will be 8 tools which will be delivered to you in 8 modules, and these 8 modules will be spread across 8 days. And these 8 days will be about, say, 2 hour session each, and which will be done across weekends. So that's the way that this program has been developed, so that it does not interfere with your day-to-day activities if you're doing that. And we'll do these programs on Saturdays and Sundays, 2 hours, which again would be a great opportunity to understand from you. And I'm sure that the SkillSir team will interact with you to identify the most convenient timing for you. Because I'm not going to come with a Manager's Toolbox program that is something that I conjured up and I came up with, and then I'm delivering it for you. And you've already coming and attend the program, and you take away something and you don't have anything else to take away. I want this to be a meaningful experience that is going to give you a lot of takeaway when you actually come and join this program and go through 8 of these modules over these 4 weekends that we are talking about. Okay, so one of the first tools that I'll be talking about is effective communication. And we all know that communication is an art as well as a science. And many of us are not extremely comfortable with communicating. Okay, so this module that we'll be covering, very first module, and now I may actually move these modules around depending on, again, suggestions that will come from each one of you and the other people who will be attending the future webinars that we have, and also the participants who will enroll for the programs. We'll have a lot of interaction with you before the program is actually delivered. So we will customize it for you so that it becomes most effective for you. So as I saw now, there was a lot of delay or hesitation in actually communicating and telling me about some of the challenges that you may be facing in your jobs, in your roles, and in expressing it. So we are going to break away from all that. So when you are attending this program and this module with me, you're going to break out of all these challenges, and you're going to be communicating, you're going to be talking, and you're going to be expressing, and you're going to be interacting with other members of the team, because the platform that we are going to be using for this, which is a SkillSir's own platform, will not have a lot of the bandwidth issues that we foresee at present. So there will be a lot more communication also taking place over there. And you must remember, and I'm sure we'll all accept this, and we recognize the fact that many of the people who are moving up in the career ladders, or moving up in the becoming successful in their careers, are not necessarily the people who are the most efficient or who are the most skilled. They are the people who are able to communicate and show the rest of the team, show the management that they are good. So you may actually have an excellent team player in the group, and he does not open up. He does his job, he's concentrating in his work, and he's perfect in whatever he or she actually, okay, perfect in what they are doing, but they do not show the rest of the world or the rest of the team. And the team leaders do not go in and enable these people to break out of the shackles that they have and to do very well in being successful and communicating it. So this is one of the biggest challenges that people do face. And I want to have a module on effective communication that will help you to break away from some of these challenges that you have. You crack the code and come out successful being effective communicators. And then you move on to become phenomenally successful in not just the communication, but also in your careers and moving up the ladder. So that's what this module will be doing for you. Okay, and the next module that we will be having is, or the next tool in the toolkit is about time management or organizing ourselves. We know that in a normal work environment, a lot of the people, especially managers and team leaders, come back to me and say, Dr. Rajiv, I feel that I am working more than 24 hours. I need more than 24 hours to just complete my work. If you agree with this, please chat. Okay, communicate with us and let us know that. If you have a difference of opinion also, let us know, because as I said before, I'm not going to think about a crate full of eggs that look ideal. I'm creating a toolbox and a toolkit where people think differently and we learn from one another. I am also not an expert in everything. I have an expertise in a lot of areas. I have built my career over 26 years before I quit it and came back into more impactful, meaningful interactions with people like the one that I'm having at present. But there is stuff that I am yet to learn also. So every day, from cradle to grave is a learning experience. So I will be happy to learn from you also if you think differently. So there are a lot of people who come back and think that 8 hours or 9 hours or 12 hours that they spend at work is not sufficient. A lot of them take work back home also. And you're working at home when you should ideally be spending time with your family, quality time for your family, quality time for yourself, and you're not able to break that. And because you are being so burdened with work, not just your work, others' work also. So we want to go into a module that talks about time management and organizing yourself so that you can become successful individuals and get the most out of the 24 hours. And if you explore the success stories of many of the successful people in the world today, you will see how amazingly they are able to organize their life around these 24 hours, and they finish a lot of their main core work in the first few hours of the day, and how they set aside the rest of the day for doing that things that are more empowering to themselves, things that make them learn as an individual, grow as a person, connect with their families, connect with their children, connect with their spouses, connect with their people who mean a lot to them. I'm not saying that work is not important, but work is a small component of your life, but there is a lot more beyond that. So how can you manage your time and make sure that you have enough time to finish what you're supposed to do in the most effective manner and still focus on what is more significant in life, which is connecting with people? Okay, so I've actually carried a lot of this learning to my own life, and I've realized that nowadays I'm actually running a program that's happening on full-time basis in Qatar, which is a center for children with special needs that I run over there. And I do a lot of programs for corporates, and I involve with individual people who come to me for counseling and coaching activities. And I spend time with my kids, and I spend time with my family, and I spend time with my parents, and I have plenty of time to do nothing, and including sitting and watching movies and playing with internet and stuff like that. So how am I able to do it? So if I'm able to create an area of freedom for myself out of the whole busy syndrome that I was going through, then there are some skills and tools that I've carried with me, not just from these different gurus, but from the lot of books that I read and a lot of information that I've gathered, which I will share with each one of you when you come and join me on this program for the 8 tools that we will be having in the Managers Toolkit. So this is one of the tools that we'll be talking about. And then the third tool that I will be bringing out of the toolbox is how can you build successful and meaningful teams. Sometimes I get people coming back to me and saying, I feel sometimes that I'm the only one working in the whole team. I have a team of 8 people or 10 people or 12 people, or some of you have larger teams, some of you have smaller teams. But then sometimes it feels that you are the only one who's working. And for some reason, everybody else seems to be having a lot of time to do everything else but focus on the work. And that's not a very interesting position to be in. That's not a very interesting mindset to be in. So you want to break away from shackles of something like that. And this module that we're talking about, the team building, is all about how can you create a team that thinks together, that thinking about a common purpose. And how do you identify the positives and negatives in this team? And how can you work around that? And how can you crack some of the challenges faced by each of your team member? Because when you are in a managerial positions, you are going to deal with different types of people, different skill sets of people, different mindsets of people. Okay, and so you need to be in a position to be able to bridge that gap between these team members and to do your very best, because you want everybody in your team to be rowing together at the same beat. If you have seen the boat races, like the Kerala boat races that some of you might have come across, if you haven't, go and Google it up and see the Kerala boat races, where there are hundreds of people sitting in a boat, and each one of them is rowing and pushing the boat forward, and they're all beating it to the same beat. Because if they miss the beat, then the boat is not going to go forward in the same pace as you want it to, and it's not going to go in the same direction if you're not aligned properly and moving forward. So team building is all about aligning your team, building on the strengths and weaknesses of your team, and putting this together so that you achieve your common objectives. And this team building module is going to give you the answers on how you can do that in a most effective manner. So if you have any specific challenges related to the teams that you're leading at present, and if you have anything that you want me to build into this particular module, let us know in the chat box, or let us know when you communicate with SkillSir, so we can work around that for you. The fourth module that we'll be dealing with, the fourth tool in the toolbox, is about leadership efficiency. It's about yourself as a leader. In this module, I'll be differentiating between what is the difference in a manager and a leader. Some of you may know the difference already. We will emphasize a little bit more on it. And for those of you who do not know it and they think it's all the same, there are a huge difference between who a manager is and who a team leader is. So a leader actually leads from the front, and a manager occasionally or mostly pushes from behind. So that's one of the key focus areas. We will be looking at a lot more of differences between who a manager is and who a leader is. And you build your leadership efficiency, and how can you develop your leadership efficiency, identifying what are your own areas of weaknesses and what can I do about those areas of weaknesses, and how can I plug it and build from there so that I move up the ladder. And not only do I move up the ladder, I take the rest of my team with me, because a most successful leader is one who enables success in his team. Not just about himself, it's about his team. And you might have recognized that the tools that we have been speaking about until now, communication, time management, leadership efficiency, all this stuff is not applicable only to your work. It's applicable to your day-to-day life. When you come back home, it's applicable to your families. It's applicable to creating a leadership environment for people within your own settings, like your children. How can you make a leader out of them? How can you develop them to go and lead a successful life in the challenging world that we live in today? So that's the kind of skills that I'm thinking about transferring to you. And that's the kind of impact that I want to have through this program. I'm not talking about pure theoretical stuff which you can pick up from anywhere in the world. There may be a dime a dozen other programs out over there talking about each of these programs. Some of them may be free webinars. You could, of course, go and attend things and pick up stuff from there. But my program is different because it's going to give you those skills, and it's going to create that impact in you. It's going to create that switch in the mindset and that switch in you that's actually going to catapult you to go and be phenomenal, successful people in your careers and in your life. So this session will help you with building your own leadership efficiency. The next challenge, and one of the biggest challenges that most of you actually, I'm sure, will be facing in your job environments, is about change management. Basically, nobody likes change. Okay, let me take an example for you. Now, most of you will have a favorite side of the bed that you sleep on, right? So what happens is you like to wake up on that side of the bed every day. You like to sleep on that side of the bed every day. So if you're sleeping on, say, let's example for the left-hand side of the bed, when you wake up, you'll probably be turning to your left-hand side. You might be sitting up first, putting your leg down, and then standing up. Or some of you might say a few words of prayer before you stand up. And then there are certain things, certain routines, certain patterns that we are all falling into every day of our life. Okay, so what happens is when you want to break that pattern, when you want to change that pattern, even if you decided to sleep on the other side of the bed for one day, you will have a very disturbed sleep because we are not used to it. You may have a particular route in which you drive to work every day. You may have a particular way in which you wear your shirt or your dresses every day. When you try to change that pattern, it's difficult. Imagine how difficult it will be for people to come up and accept change in workplaces. Some of them come with preconceptions. Some of them come with experiences they carry from previous companies. Some of them come with things they learned in college. Some of them come with things that people have talked to them about. So when you come with idea as a leader, as a manager, as a supervisor, and you want to create a change in the team or create a change in the work environment, the first thing that you will face is resistance. People like to resist change, and that's standard. I'm sure most of you agree. If you agree, put into your chat box saying, I agree that there is change, resistance to change in my workplace. So we know that, you're actually interacting, you're gaining from this experience. All right. So change is not something that everybody is comfortable with, and it will be resisted. Even in your own work environment or in your home families, you try changing the habits of some of your children, especially if they are teenagers. That's a big challenge. Okay, so how do we help in creating that need? Okay, how do we identify, first of all, what is your present state? Where are you today? And what is your desired state? Where do you want to get to? How do you identify what is the change I want to see in the workplace or in my life for that matter? How do I want to progress in my career? That could be a change program that you can work on. So during this module, we are going to be working on various identifying what kind of change management techniques can we use. How can we identify the planned stage and present stage and the desired stage? How do we put a program that will take me from where I am to where I want to be? How can I make that change happen in the workplace, in the teams that I have with me, and the teams that I'm managing with? Okay, and how do you get the buy-in from the team? Because sometimes people do things because the boss wants you to do it. Is that the kind of team that you're leading? Is that the kind of manager that you are? You tell them that, I want you to do this. I don't care what you think. I don't want to hear about your opinions, but I want you to do what I want you to do. If that's the situation, then we're going to have a team where people are either going to leave very soon or they're going to work half-mindedly, so they're not putting their full heart and soul into it, and you're not getting the best out of them. We want to change that environment and create a change management program through this tool that we're talking about, which will make sure that you can bring about huge, impactful changes, not just in your workplace, but also in your life. The sixth tool in the toolbox out of the 8 tools will be knowing yourself. And you will identify that a lot of the managers who are put into jobs may be very good in their domain, maybe have a clear idea about the industry that they are working in, maybe sometimes they don't, but also they are not very clear about their own knowledge about themselves. Their emotions, how do they manage their emotions? What are they good at? What kind of a manager am I? What are my styles? What are my weak points? What are my strengths? How do I use my strengths to overcome my weaknesses? So to know yourself. Once you know yourself, and once you identify some of these pitfalls that talking to you about, you will be able to deep dive and identify the pattern that you want to change, and you identify changes that you want to make. And then it opens up a whole level of understanding about how to manage not just others, but also to manage yourself. Because sometimes I hear a lot of work staff members or team members coming to me and saying, I just wish that our manager would go away from here. And you all know that a lot of companies lose very valuable employees, not because the employees are bad, but because you have a poor manager or a leader who's sitting over there who's creating a hell of a lot of difference to how the way that the employees are encouraged. So that's the challenge that a lot of organizations are facing today. That could be a challenge that some of the attendees are facing also. So when you come and join me for this program, and as we do this program together, you will identify yourself, not just your domain experience, also your emotions, and identify what can I do to move forward and be more successful. And as we mentioned earlier, when we talked about some of the challenges and the pitfalls, many of us do not see the strategic perspective, the larger picture. One of the key learnings that I had from Dr. Ken Blanchard was about he always talks about a story about the ducks and the eagles. Some of you may actually have heard that story. If you haven't, I would strongly suggest you go and Google up Dr. Ken Blanchard and his video about talking about the duck and the eagles. Okay, so it's available on YouTube and you can go and watch that as well. And we'll talk a lot more about Dr. Ken Blanchard and all the amazing gurus and what they taught me. And you will walk away with all that learning. What I've invested 25 years in learning, you're going to walk away by learning within a short period of time, over a few weeks, over a few hours. Okay, so that's what I want to do, transferring the skills and knowledge across to each one of you when you come and join this program and as we work on this program together. So Dr. Ken Blanchard talks about the ducks and the eagles. You might be familiar in a lot of companies and organizations when you actually go and talk to people. You were talking about you want to ask them to do something for you or get something done. The first thing that comes out, the word that comes out from them could be, oh, by the way, according to our procedures, according to our policies, according to our guidelines, according to our framework, according to our structure. So they always tend to hide behind something. It could be a procedure, it could be a policy, it could be something. But they do not want to come and identify, how can I make this thing happen? How can I enable this thing to happen, even within the framework of these policies or stuff? So a lot of people tend to hide behind. And Dr. Ken Blanchard calls these people as the ducks. Have you seen ducks in the water? They're always paddling. They're flap, 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 flap over there. And they're just moving around in that pond or in that small area, but they are not actually making big progress. And that's what these ducks do in organizations, and that's what the ducks in any companies do. They just do quack, 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 quack. They keep quacking like ducks, but they do not progress. They do not move away from the problems. They do not move away from the challenges. They do not move away from what's holding them back. And then Dr. Cohn Blanchard tells you to become an eagle, not a duck. Become an eagle. Break away from being a duck and become an eagle. And what do eagles do? Have you seen eagles flying? If you haven't, go and Google up videos of eagles flying. It's an amazing experience. They are flying far above everything else. They fly so high in the sky, and they are taking in the whole perspective. They see a bird's eye picture of things. They see the whole perspective. They have what I call a strategic view of what's happening out over there. They see a whole thing, then from so far away. What we need to do as managers is to occasionally, I'm not saying that looking at procedures and policies and frameworks is not important. I'm not saying it's not important. What I'm saying is that as leaders, as managers, as successful people, you need to be able to break away from that sometimes, occasionally at least, to go fly up into the sky like eagles and see the larger picture. And when you see the larger picture, it gives you a completely different perspective, and it changes the way that everything else matters. Nothing else matters. You don't come back and talk about the ducks anymore. You don't talk about the quack, quack, quacks anymore. You go and do things differently. And that's what Dr. Ken Blanchard talks about in his stories about the ducks and the eagles. So do you as managers see the larger picture, and do you see how system dynamics functions? Because in system dynamics is all about the fact that nothing works in isolation. Everything that we do today has an impact on something else. Everything we tell a person, we may be aggressive with a person, we may be tough about how we manage a person, it has an impact on that person, and it's going to have an impact on how he's going to work, and it's going to have an impact on how he's going home and performing, and it's going to have an impact on how he's going to drive home from today. So everything has an impact. You look at the same scenario at work. What the salespeople do in your organization has an impact on bringing in your customers, and what your customers come and do in your company has an impact on the bottom line figures, and what the bottom line figures has an impact on your ability to pay your staff. So it's all connected together. It's a system. Nothing works in isolation. Sometimes you talk to finance managers who think that they are the world. Sometimes you talk to marketing people who talk as if they are the world and they know everything and everything depends on them. Yes, we do depend on you, but you depend on us as well. It's important for us as leaders, as managers, to see how everything is connected, how the system dynamics functions, and how if one part of an organization suffers, automatically the other part of the organization suffers. How if you are suffering in your family life, it will impact your work, and how if you are suffering in your work, it will impact your family life and everybody around you. The world is interconnected. We are all interconnected. We do not live in our own silos. And this is exactly what the strategic planning and management module will help you to achieve. You will have core strategic management fundamentals, which talks about vision and mission and strategic objectives and things like that, and setting milestones and frameworks and all that. And at the same time, I will also be creating that transformation in you that will help you start looking at the larger picture, not just in your jobs, but also in your lives. Okay, so this is what the seventh tool is going to be all about. And the final tool that I want to talk to you is about performance management. Okay, it's all important to do great things in life. It's all important to do hard work in the job. It's all important to follow protocols, follow procedures, and run after your targets and run after your goals and objectives that have been given to you. But when I talk to a lot of people, when I talk to leaders in companies, and when I talk to the clients that I consult with, I'm talking about world-class companies. Sometimes we realize that they are having a certain weakness in their performance management framework. And performance management framework is all about knowing what your goals are, how to identify and know if you have actually achieved your goals. You may be having certain goals in your own lives also, and you may have already achieved a lot of success. Many people are running around after success in life, but without realizing that they are already successful. Okay, so it's very important for us to understand what are those milestones and what are the frameworks and the key performance indicators that are going to tell us how our performance management system is working and what kind of systems are out over there. I will be drawing in a lot from the balanced scorecard framework when I talk about this module. This is from Dr. Kaplan and Norton, the amazing inventors of the balanced scorecard framework, and we see how this can be adapted in your corporates and how it can be adapted in your lives. We can go into a certain amount of depth and detail about how to set up certain scorecards and frameworks in your corporate careers, in your in your corporate environments, how to develop simple tools which can show you if certain parts of your organizations are doing exceedingly well, if you're meeting certain goals exceedingly well, where your deficiencies are. So such things we will be talking about in the performance management framework. And it can apply not just in this mainly, I'm not going to be focusing too much on individual performance management. A lot of your HR managers might be very interested to know about the performance management of individuals. Performance management of individuals is just one small component of the performance framework that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about looking at the performance of the entire organization and how every individual components fit in and how each one of them is performing to deliver a larger impact on the vision and the mission and the objectives of the organization as a whole. And then we can also talk about how the individual performance contributes this team performance and how the team performance contributes to the corporate performance. Okay, so this is the area of performance management that we will be talking around about in the eighth tool that we will discuss during the Managers Toolbox, this program that each one of us will be doing together. But it's a small footnote I put on the bottom of the slide. I would like to draw your attention to it, subject to modification on the run. I want to be very clear to you that when I say these are the 8 modules, from the time I'm presenting this to you until the time we actually have the program up and running and each one of you has registered and started attending the programs, I can still modify this for you. So what I would like to know from you, what I would love to hear from you is to know if there is any other modules or any other tools which you think are more important than these 8 tools which I have handpicked. Okay, and if there are any certain specific tools, I will try to integrate them in there. And I am known, okay, among my clients and international customers and the corporates that I work with and the people that I interact with, that I can go on a particular program, and when there is a lot of interaction and I realize that my customers want something more, they are asking a specific question which may not be related directly to, say, for example, the performance management tool, but they have something that is very important for them to crack, then I may stop talking about the performance management and then divert and talk about the other module until they get what they wanted and then come back and talk about performance management. Sometimes when I interact with youngsters and I understand that what I wanted to tell them is key important for them, but they have much deeper problems. So when there are certain deeper problems and deeper issues that we cannot fix, then it may be difficult to achieve something else. So I would spend some time and maybe a lot of time to fix some of those issues. So the entire program is subject to modification on the run, and you will be driving me. I will not be driving you through the program. Of course, I'm come with my preparation. I come with all the experience and the skills. But once I hear that you have a challenge, and that's why I want this to be an interactive program eventually when we go on to the real stuff. Okay, so and that's where we will be making it so meaningful that we can talk about and then modify and amend each of these tools and give you some more tools if needed on how you can become successful people and successful managers and move up the career path that you have in your life. So if I were to go and look at it and say, what's in it for you? Okay, you've already heard about a lot of it. And by the way, I want to tell you that, none of these tools work in isolation. As I mentioned about system dynamics, each one of it is going to have an impact on something else. So we may also be shifting back and forth from some of these topics, and some of the examples which we talk in a particular module may very well be relevant to another module as well. Okay, so that's the way that it will be. It's absolutely interactive and fun-based program that we are talking about. So it's a lot of, I don't want you to come at the end of the day or spend 2 hours with me on the weekends talking only about really serious stuff. hey, come on, this world is already serious on its own. We have a lot of serious challenges. We want to talk about things that make us happy, make it meaningful, make it happy sessions, make it interactive programs. I want you to laugh a lot. I want you to ask questions. I want you to share knowledge. When we're talking about a diverse group of participants, there is intensive knowledge over there. There's lots I can learn, lot the other participants can learn. So we will have a lot of interactive programs over there, a lot of discussions also. Okay, so we will be talking about theoretical stuff related to these 8 tools, but also there will be a huge amount of application knowledge that comes from my background and my experience and what I learned from these 8 amazing gurus. And I want to make sure I share it with you. They may be like very high condensed program, which comes with a very strong medication that you take, but it's a lot of things that will snap in your subconscious mind very soon during the program or after the program, or when you get back to your work environment and start interacting with people, and all of a sudden it will all start coming back. And then you realize the great tremendous impact and the absolute phenomenal transformation that is made in each one of you. Okay, so you will also see the interrelationships of these tools, and then it will give you, and I can assure you this, whatever I'm going to interact with you, and in fact some of you might have very great takeaways from this session also, where you learned a lot about the different modules and some of the examples that I've spoken to you about, and the key knowledge learnings that I had from some of these key gurus that I've interacted with. So there's this not just about work. Work is one part of life. This is all about life. Work is a very important part of life. It's about how you can focus on that, enhance it, move up the ladder of success. How can you be an efficient manager? How can you make your team efficient? And how can you have overall success, not just for you, but for the team and for the group and for the corporate and the company and you as a human being beyond your corporate life as well. And there will be a lot of key takeaways like that that will come during the entire program. And it's all about long-term impact. I'm not going to give you something that you're going to forget in a few days' time, and it's not something that it's not going to vanish from your life, because it's going to stay with you. Certain skills, these tools that you can adapt and apply to your own life, and you will have the skill set to adapt these tools as and when you need it, and to apply it to any challenging situations in your life, in your job, in your career, and even help other people to come out of some of the challenges that they are facing. So that's the empowerment that I want to do for you. Okay, so there's a lot of examples and stuff I could talk to you about, but we've already spent quite a lot of time over here. So I will move from the slides, and I want to thank you for attending this session. It's been an amazing experience having you here. I'm afraid that due to technological restrictions, I haven't been able to have a very interactive program with you at this session, but I do look forward to a very interactive program later also. But please do note down my Instagram account. I would love for you to connect with me. I see that we have more than 25-30 participants over here at present. So I would love for you to connect with us. Also for SkillSir, you have seen their slides earlier, and connect with them and exchange your ideas, exchange your opinions, and ask us things that you want to. Even after this, we will have some more opportunities for interaction. And stay in touch. And thank you very much. And I wish you all success. So back to you, SkillSir. And I've stopped sharing my screen for the moment.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeev, for sharing this wonderful session and giving us the insights into the Managers Toolbox. And we look forward to engaging with you, all participants. If you have any questions, we would request you to share on the chat box, or you could unmute yourself and share your questions. We'd be happy to address them.
Yes, I do definitely look forward to receiving your queries through SkillSir or directly, which we will coordinate, and also for you to tell us if there is anything specific that you would like to see once this program is up and running, and also if there is anything that you want us to specifically customize for you, and we'd be very happy to do that. And I wish and hope that you've learned a few very interesting points, and you understand and recognize that once we have the program running, it's going to be extremely interesting when we talk about the 8 different tools in the toolbox.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Rajeev. Indeed, I'm sure the participants have got good insights into the module. and that with your rich experience, it will be blended well in time in terms of giving them practical experiences, at their work situations or even in their personal lives. So I think it'll be very good and enriching for the participants once they enroll and benefit from the program that you have so well crafted.
Thank you very much. Good day, everybody, and God bless.